By now, it is no secret that Pascal Siakam has been moved from the Toronto Raptors to the Indiana Pacers. But you may be asking, how does that involve the Chicago Bulls? Well, not only are the Indiana Pacers the Bulls' division rivals, but it now changes the trade market and affects some of the players that the Bulls have been looking to move all season long, most importantly including Zach Lavine. I'm your host, Joey Mercer. This is another episode of Bulls Digest, and before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 85% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and every single time we upload, you will be able to stay up to date with your Chicago Bulls and our takes on them here at Bulls Digest. So without further ado, let's get into the topic at hand there today, being Siakam changing the trade market. So yeah, I mean, it's no secret that Siakam has been moved, like I said, to the Pacers, and that is another guy to help Tyrese Halliburton and another, former All-NBA player making it just last season to help him out, which goes to think, what is the value now on Zach Lavine? A lot of people question values around a lot of players, but I think I want to cover it right away and tell all of you not to worry as much, because the difference is Siakam wasn't going to go for more because his contract is up at the end of the season. There's speculation he could want to re-sign with the Raptors, and it could just be a half-season rental for a guy who was a former All-NBA player, and you don't know how he's going to fit on a new team, nor do you know how any superstar fits on a new team. Siakam might play great with the Pacers and is going to be a force to be reckoned with when we have to play the Pacers so far this season, but he could leave the team at the end of the year, and it might not be the Raptors. It could be any team that he signs with. So that's why it was only the three first: Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and Kira Lewis coming from the Pelicans. But that brings us to the article at hand today, which learning from Siakam trade, what's the free agents or front office's mindset, and Patrick Williams' status and other Bulls bullets. Now, we're not going to get into the other Bulls bullets and Patrick Williams' status. This article is from Elias Schuster. We have covered some of those before, and that is from Bleacher Nation, and we're going to get into the Siakam trade and the front office mindset part of this here today. We'll get right into that right away. The first bullet point that we saw in this article being Toronto was doing exactly what the Bulls should. They have realized the mistake they made by sitting on both OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam at last season's trade deadline. Instead of convincing themselves that they can continue to put a square peg in a round hole, they're choosing to prioritize a better tomorrow. And heck, this is a franchise that won a championship during the 2018 and 19 season not so long ago. If anyone had a reason to be hesitant about officially moving on from pieces of their core, it would be a team like the Raptors, not a team that has nothing more than a 5-game first-round exit on their mantle. Now, that's something I wanted to talk about because I understand the Bulls haven't had much success since really Derrick Rose has left the team. But the Raptors won in 2019, but then Kawhi left right after. That was their star player. They got rid of Lowry a couple seasons after that. Fred left last season because they weren't able to fill that Kawhi role, and they lost Marc Gasol because he got older, joined the Lakers, and then left the NBA. That team completely fell apart, including Ibaka getting older, leaving the team, joining other, future endeavors, and that exactly is why that team crumbled. It's not just because they decide to blow the team up. They did have some pieces from the finals team, but Kawhi Leonard was a lot of that team, and when he left, I mean, they're going to go in a spiral. They tried to repeat the next year in the bubble. Obviously, it didn't work out, and things just went downhill from there, and that's exactly what happened. You lose Kawhi Leonard, it's a big loss. That's why they had to go there. It's not the same mindset we should be looking at this Bulls team right now. However, I do believe the Bulls should be making some big changes. But you shouldn't look at the fact the Raptors won in 2019 as a reason that they shouldn't be a team to blow things up, because they absolutely should. If you're just stuck in that just below play-in, so are the Bulls, which is why they should also do it. That should be the reason. It should have nothing to do with the 2019 title. Next thing we saw in this was, to be sure, I say all of this fully recognizing that trades are hard. The Bulls don't necessarily have the assets that can net the same value as the Raptors, but their focus still must be on playing the market with the team an underwhelming 19-23 on the season. I continue to fear that this is not where their mindset rests with the trade deadline only a few weeks away. NBC Sports Chicago's Casey Johnson spoke about the front office's psyche heading into this season on 670 The Score, underscoring how easily they talk themselves into this year being different. You heard ad nauseum from them about the 14-9 finish. Their thought process, add a couple of solid veterans in Carter and Craig, have young players like White and Williams develop, which one of them has, and then tweak the offense so that the big three's potentials reach, and that was the thinking. That is definitely an interesting approach. It sounds all hunky-dory, like it could go as easy as that, but you never know what is going to happen. The big three really was a almost big four with Lonzo Ball there, and with him gone down and us not really having a point guard, now finding Kobe White, who has been absolutely great as of late, but we're still missing that fifth starter that really solidifies us as a solid team, which is why this team once again is hovering just a few games below 500. We need that extra piece, and we don't really have much going for us off the bench at the moment, as Kobe White has been the guy to come in the starting lineup and be that guy. We don't have anybody off the bench to be that guy, so to speak. Caruso is very good, but when it comes to the offensive side of things, he's not creating as much as you probably would like. He's such a great defensive player and is in and out of the starting lineup all the time. The next thing that we'll see in this article, was how do we know they will not just point toward another small sample size in December as reasoning to keep things going? Few front offices in the NBA have been more stubborn than this group over the past couple of seasons, which is truly mind-boggling when we consider what they've accomplished. And it's true that, they should just be willing to move on from things. But another thing that teams have done in the past that I want to mention is they've blown things up just because it hasn't worked after a couple of years with guys who are still young. The Bulls, however, right now are aging, so it is a different situation in that aspect. DeRozan and Vuce, you don't know how much longer that they have in the tank. Vuce, obviously, probably a few more years than DeRozan, but it really is hard to say. Once you hit that 30 threshold, it really becomes an unknown, and you're taking on more of a responsibility as a team, hoping that the player's still going to maintain the play that they're at. I understand the Durant's, LeBron's, things like that, but those are all-time great players, which is why it's a completely different scenario to look at. Next thing we saw in this was another thing Johnson repeated a couple of times during his appearance on the Mully and Haas show, was that Lavine's limited market isn't the Bulls' fault. I get what he's saying to an extent. Chicago can't make anyone fully buy into what Lavine can offer their franchise, but they can surely help the cause. By building a poor roster and becoming a team stuck in mediocrity, they have lost a lot of leverage in trade negotiations. They rightfully want a good return for their two-time All-Star, but opposing front offices are inclined to play hardball. I think part of the quiet market has to simply do with rival execs knowing what kind of return the Bulls want and thus refusing to entertain those conversations. So, that's interesting to look at as well. I don't think that they've necessarily built a poor roster around Lavine. I just don't think that they've gotten the pieces that they necessarily want, but they still do have some solid pieces around him, and I don't think that everybody has meshed perfectly so far. I don't think that it's just been some poor roster construction. We're honestly a couple of pieces away from being a solid, not contending, but a solid team. So I don't think it's completely just mind-boggling to think that this team has been constructed so poorly. I think some solid pieces have been put in place, and I really still think that Lavine has been the biggest issue with this team. Although a very good offensive player, I do notice that the playmaking is not as great as it could be, and the defense, once again, is just not there off ball. He becomes very disinterested when he's not guarding the ball. It's fair. Next thing that we saw was a trade proposal I saw suggested on Twitter, and this one's pretty crazy. The value on this one, not quite there in my opinion, but it could be something that could happen. You're looking at D'Lo, Rui Hachimura, and Gabe Vincent for Zach LaVine and Andre Drummond. The Lakers would love something like this to happen. I've talked about a similar trade of D'Lo, Rui, and picks. I did not talk about just taking on Gabe Vincent, who didn't look very good with the Lakers, and we're unsure how he's going to play because he's missed so much time this year when he comes with the Bulls. That's worse than picks right now, in my opinion. You're really taking on a what-if in his situation, giving up our only backup center, and then moving on to second-round picks, which is what the big deal breaker for me is the Drummond and 2 second-round picks as well included in that. It worked salary-wise. I don't think it works overall. And the Lakers losing one game because of that, or getting worse by one win, I don't think that's accurate either. I don't think they're getting worse. I think they're getting better. for what they need with this situation, as Rui really hasn't been that great for them so far this season. The next thing that we saw in this article, when we're going back to it now, this tweet was featured in it, but then we'll go back to the article and what Eli Schuster said, saying, "I can't believe how greatly the narrative has shifted on Zach Lavine. Nobody is saying he's the perfect player, but he also isn't the kind of asset you have to beg someone to take off your hands with draft capital. Lakers fans are delusional." Now, I'm not going to speak into that, Lakers fans being delusional. I don't think any fan base right now I'm going to come out and say are delusional. By no means. I mean, everybody has strong opinions of your own players. You're a fan base. You're passionate. You love the players on your team, and that's what we all do as fans of the sport. Any team that you're with, that's what you're going to be like. Unless the situation is absolutely poor or you really don't have much faith in them anymore, you give players enough chances while they're on their team. And then once they've really let you down, then you try to move on from them. But fans being passionate, I'm not going to say they're delusional. That was a little bit much in my opinion. However, I do think that a lot of the trades I've seen online are not accurate for the value of Zach Lavine. I understand the contract and the defense are the big worries, but the offense is something you're taking on, which is making up the offense of those three guys for sure. This has been your host, Joey Mercer. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to go down below, like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Sign off.